my gosh.
And here's the deal. This is our first time specifically working together. And if you haven't noticed by now, everybody listening and watching, Pearl is one of the sweetest ladies on the planet. And I put you in an awkward spot. I said, here's what we're going to do. I need you to ridicule me. You're like, I don't want to do that. I'm like, Pearl, it'll be fine. Yeah. You see, I said, here's what we're going to do.
Welcome back to the show. There's no telling where we'll go. So come and share a laugh on the Imp and Skizz podcast.
Back for another podcast, and this time, Impulse, we're going down under. We got PearlescentMoon on the podcast. I'm very excited. Look at that. I'm so happy for you to be on the show. Thank you, Pearly Pop, for giving us your time and joining us. This is cool.
All the way from Australia.
All the way from Australia. That's why I said down under.
Thank you so much.
Yeah, I just want to clear that up in case people didn't get the reference.
Pearl, this is so. Let's for a frame of reference here, because we're going to go into how crazy of a life it is for you specifically to be a creator living in Australia, because a lot of the levers you got to pull to make things work, specifically from a time zone standpoint. I think it's what, 4 a.m. your time right now.
If I look at the clock, yeah, 4:16 a.m. at the moment.
Goodness.
Exactly.
How do you do that?
I feel so bad for you.
I take basically a night shift schedule. I sleep later, I wake up later. So, I mean, the pro is that everybody else is asleep at the time, so things are super, super quiet and it's not all ruckusy, and my mic is nice and beautiful when I'm recording videos. But yeah, I just shift my sleep schedule a little bit and die inside other times.
Wow. Yeah. I remember. I mean, we're jumping right in. Okay, I guess we should. For anybody that's been living under a rock, and doesn't know who Pearl is, PearlescentMoon is your name, I believe, on all platforms, right? Twitch and YouTube and Twitter and all that. You've been doing content creation for quite some time now. How long's it been? Do you know?
I started doing Minecraft videos in 2016, but fun facts, I think several years earlier, I actually started by uploading Call of Duty Black Ops 2 videos.
What?
I only made like a couple of them and some like OSU videos, but at the time I was like, hey, I did this really cool thing in Black Ops 2, and I sat in front of my computer with a little camera and just filmed the screen under a blanket because I was seen in the reflection.
Oh my
I sat there with the camera and filmed it. I was like, yep, that'll do. I get to show everyone my cool plays.
There's some weird thing about how like half the guests we've had on the show got their start by posting Call of Duty videos.
I've never even played it. It's ridiculous, dude. I want to play it. God, is there any chance you still play a little bit?
Not anymore, because I kind of like dropped a bit of the competitive stuff a while ago. But
Are you sure you dropped the competitive stuff?
Whatever,
I'm not
Pearl.
buying that.
Yeah, you're full of it. We are on a server with you. You are the best at everything. Don't you start with me, woman. You obviously did not drop the competitive.
Okay, all right. I'm competitive overall, but in terms of like the first-person shooter type of scene, that kind of stuff, I'm just like, nah, it stresses me out. My heart rate gets going. Yeah,
Do you
it's
rage?
a little wild. So
Do you rage? Do you tell people online how much you dislike them?
No, I've never done that. I just get frustrated at myself more than anything. I'm like, oh gosh, why was I so bad at that? Oh, I'm getting frustrated at how bad I'm playing. And it felt like a very negative or toxic mindset. So I was just like, nah.
Yeah. I've seen a lot of those like TikTok videos of kids smashing their keyboards and stuff from that game.
Oh man. God. Remember, the kid playing Unreal Tournament, remember smashing his keyboard. So we talk about this a lot, Pearl, where like Impulse and I really, really miss Battlefield days. We used to play Battlefield together, specifically Battlefield 2. I never played Call of Duty, but I've always wanted to get into it. We go back to the days of the Unreal Tournament and stuff like that. I want to play a shooter game with a bunch of hermits, and I want to play with Pearl. I want to say, and here's why, and we're actually going to cover this, but there's something very interesting about you, Pearl. I want to get right in. And again, if there's anybody listening or watching who doesn't know who PearlescentMoon is, she's also one of those rare people that's just good at everything. And it's not even a compliment. I almost dislike you because of this, but I don't, because I love you, but you're so good at everything. So the idea of playing a shooter game with you and her just probably owning people would be pretty spectacular. And giggling.
I'm pretty sure it'd just be embarrassing if we tried to play first-person shooter now after not touching it for a decade.
I know, but I'm in.
We should play. I think Scar really wants to play as well. Can we all just play Call of Duty together and get into it?
Yes!
Because that would be so much fun.
Oh my gosh.
Like, I would love to do it just with friends. It's a different feeling in total because you get like bantery competitive, and then you're just picking on each other while you're shooting each other. You know, I don't know. It's funny.
Are you sure?
Play it at some point.
Are you sure that a group with the three of us and Scar is good? Because you know how the audience always likes to make acronyms out of names, and
what would this
P
be?
I S and then Scar would be the other S.
We're gonna be called Piss. It's no good. Can't we be Sips?
Okay. We'll take our sips. Yeah. Okay. That's much better.
If you're playing Call of Duty, I mean, piss kind of just it fits in. You know, own it.
Do they still let you do those clan tags with like 4 letters? Because we used to have that too when we played Battlefield. We had a little clan tag.
Yeah.
Maybe we could do that. Well,
back in the day.
We should absolutely.
Play like
Can we do
piss
that,
too, probably.
please?
So here we are, Pearly Pop, your main channel. You're over 760,000 subscribers, which is outstanding. You're absolutely killing it. And you just said that you started kind of on Call of Duty. Now, did you go from Call of Duty to Minecraft? Because it's a heck of a jump, but it's a common tale. We hear that a lot. Call of Duty to Minecraft.
Well, I mean, even so, the videos that I uploaded, they kind of got privated pretty quickly. So I didn't really kind of make that jump. It was mostly just Minecraft from the beginning. And the other ones were just like, I don't know. I didn't really post them to go anywhere with them. And it was just 2 and done. I did play Osu in between, which is a rhythm game on the computer. You guys know like those kind of keyboard rhythm type games? That's pretty much Osu Mania. It's what I was playing, and I uploaded some of those videos as well with the same method of a camera.
You played one of those when we were in Ann Arbor, and we went to that arcade, didn't you?
Yeah. Did you see the score that I got?
She crushed it. She absolutely crushed it.
I'm not surprised. See? Driving home the point here. I don't know what game you're talking about. So, all right, let's talk about Minecraft. What brought you into Minecraft? Because you're obviously an extremely, very beautiful builder.
Artistic.
You're very artistic in general, and that translated quickly to Minecraft. And I'll tell a little story about that later in our Legacy days. We'll talk about that in a little bit. But what brought Pearl into Minecraft?
My brother, actually. He had been trying to convince me to play Minecraft for years. So, and I kept saying no. I'm like, nah, doesn't really look my kind of thing, you know, nah. And then one day I actually started watching a few videos on YouTube. I think one of them was like a Captain Sparkles video. And just at that point, something convinced me and snapped in me. I'm like, right, I'm getting Minecraft now. I've got to play. You know, I loved games ever since I was really, really young. I love art, and Minecraft for that was just both of those things. And I'm like, yes, I need to get this game. It's doing both in one. It's perfect. And that's what got me hooked. I think when I first got it, I was playing it for like 42 hours, almost just the whole way through. I'm like, yeah, this is fantastic.
That's amazing.
So,
it just pulls you in. Yeah. It pulls you in. When you first play it for the first time, it pulls you in. I don't actually, okay, I haven't asked this question in a while, and I want to do it. I like, this is one of my favorite questions to ask. And you might not be able to answer this, Pearl. But did you have an aha moment with Minecraft? Because I genuinely believe, because first of all, you started, I don't want to play this game. This doesn't look like, everybody thinks it's just this blocky game. But I believe that anybody who ends up sticking with the game, they had their aha moment in regards to, oh my gosh, that's what this game is. This game is super cool. Did you have one of those by chance?
I feel like it was just that from the get-go. Just
right
getting
away.
in, and I was like, ooh, yeah, this is great. And then I was hooked. I think that's the kind of type of gamer that I am. Like, if the game gets me from the very start, like, I am all for it. If it doesn't hook me in from the very start, I'm kind of like, breezy, and then it gets chucked on the back end pile, and I jump to it 2 years later. Whereas Minecraft just got me straight away.
Now, you said you had a background in art, and was that something that you immediately applied to Minecraft when you were playing, or was that something that kind of came later in your Minecraft experience?
I made my oak box that everybody makes, but I guess in a way I did design it a little bit more than otherwise. I couldn't just plonk it on top of the land. Like, it was a several story oak box built in the jungle, but also had stairs going down underneath with a little basement. I had like little tree oak saplings inside for little indoor plants and some chests. So it was like partially designed, but it was still pretty basic in itself, you know?
I wish I had kept my first Minecraft world that I ever played. You know what I mean? Like the very first world save when you first launched the game and you did what Pearl said, your oak box, you know, that you create, or your dirt hut or what have you. I don't even remember what I did. I was probably just very happy with myself that I discovered glass panes, you know, as for Windows. So I like, do you know if you still have that world? Do you ever go back and look at some of the old things you do?
Yep. I actually, I think a couple years back, I made a transformation video of the very first thing I'd made in Minecraft, and I transformed it into like 5 or 6 other different things. But I still have the world. It's on PS3,
Wow.
so it's just there on the system, and I've got a PC version save of it somewhere as well.
You played with a controller?
Yeah,
That's
I
how
was
you
so good
learned
at it
Minecraft.
too, but then
I
and
have
I
no
was great at
idea.
it. It was fantastic. I'll tell you what though, when I got onto like Java, I joined Java in 2015, so I was about a year on console. And I got onto Java and I started playing with a keyboard. I'm like, how the heck am I gonna play Minecraft with a keyboard? Like, how do people do this? I was so disorientated. And now if I go back and use a controller, I'm like, how did I ever play with this? It's so stiff, you know. You're like,
Yeah.
yep, look over there.
Yeah.
It's so horrible, but yeah, it's interesting how much you just get used to whatever hardware you're using.
Well, I
you
mean,
know?
we play with an inverted mouse, so I guess I kind of get the reference there.
Yeah.
Exactly.
Oh
That's
my
crazy.
gosh.
That's crazy. So talk about your early days, and you started making content. What were some of the things you were doing early on in your YouTube Minecraft career?
Well, honestly, actually, I started uploading Minecraft around the time that I was actually helping Grian. So Grian definitely inspired me quite a lot when it came to the building, and I almost feel like I got bored of Minecraft and was about to just kind of let it be another one of the games I just, put on the pile. And then I started watching Grian's videos, and he had all the decoration tips, and it was really inspiring. And fun backstory, but there was a little tweet that I had made on Twitter because I heard, oh, yeah, Grian's on Twitter. I'm like, okay, I'm going to make a little tweet with a build that I'd done recently and thank him for, inspiring me to create something. And he had responded at the time. And I was like, oh my gosh, he responded, the typical thing that communities do. But then one of his current build crew members at the time also responded. And he's like, hey, you should apply to Grian's build crew. This was Scotty. I don't know if anyone who knows Grian's build crew at the time. But he's like, yeah, you should go and apply to Grian's build crew. And again, Grian replied an email that night and we popped into the build crew. And after a certain amount of time, like 100%, people were starting to subscribe to my channel that had those COD videos and OSU videos. And I'm like, they're coming here for Minecraft. I don't have any Minecraft on there. So I was like, well, I'll just do this tiny little time-lapse videos for fun and just see if people are interested in my builds. And that's where it started from there, I guess,
So being part of Grian's build crew, what were some of the things that you were doing there?
Well, it was a lot of, at the time, it was kind of like the build school one. So I think the very first video that I helped on was the build school for Windows, making window designs for houses. And other ones, for example, were like just different furniture designs. We were trying to play with different blocks and put them together with different orientations to make funky chairs or mats or different wall designs. Like there was a whole myriad of just basically build school, how to build in Minecraft stuff.
Oh, that's really cool. And those would end up like in his tutorials that showed them all off, basically showcased all the stuff you guys came up with. That's really cool.
That is cool.
Wow.
Yeah.
So just happenstance contact with Grian, and then one thing led to another. Grian gets uninvited to Hermitcraft server, and he after I think a season or two is like, hey, I know this really great builder that was on my build team that you guys should consider. And your name was brought up, and the history is, you ended up joining us season 8. But it wasn't your first multiplayer server, was it? Hermitcraft definitely wasn't your first. Take us through your multiplayer survival series journeys.
Actually, well, I'm trying to think about the timeline of things because I'm not fully sure on the exact timeline of everything and where it lines up. It was a bit of a mix of stuff. There was a live stream only server called Artisan SMP. It was very short running. That was run by System Z for a little bit. We've of course got Legacy, which I'm sure we'll jump back to in a moment with the lovely Skizzy. But one of my first kind of jump-ins into SMP content was actually Evo. And Evo is a pretty fond memory of SMP for the community, and they love it. And they're like, "Yeah, I found you through Evo." And I'm like, "Oh gosh, did you?" Episode 1, like I can go back and watch my content and feel fine with it these days. But going back into Evo, it's like, oh dear, I feel so sorry for Grian. That was incredibly awkward. It's just kind of amazing how it started from there. So yeah, it went into, that into Evo, then into Empires, which ended up starting at the same time as Hermitcraft. And now we're kind of where we are today. But
that's amazing. Yeah, a lot of people recognize Evo. That was kind of Grian's start on SMPs too. I think the concept, if I remember right, was they would evolve the evolution of Minecraft releases, right? So you guys started like in Minecraft beta, and then I don't know if it was weekly. I don't know the cadence of it, but then every once in a while the server would just update to the next version of Minecraft. How you caught up with the current day version? Is that how that was played out? Yeah, pretty cool concept.
Exactly how it played out. Yep.
That's awesome.
That is
it was
cool.
really fun, honestly. It was incredibly challenging, though. Like, you don't realize how many blocks you're really missing until you dive into the older versions of Minecraft and you struggle to make a simple window frame. And I'm like, I'm missing a lot of blocks right now. Because it was mostly you didn't have your stairs or your slabs, you just had your full blocks.
What would you do without your spruce trapdoors, huh?
It was still too much for me. So we went back, let's just dive right into Legacy. Legacy is an old school SMP server. I remember Logical Geek Boy contacted me and invited me to the server, which I thought was really, really cool. And I pop on there and I'm just trying to get familiar with everybody. And I know Zloy was there. We also had, help me out, Pearl. Her name was, Cats. What was her? K-A-T-Z.
Pop-Tart Cats.
Pop-Tart, thank you, Pop-Tart. She was great. Pop-Tart was one of those girls that was like so funny when she was specifically not trying to be. Like her natural dialogue was just really funny. But then there was this girl on there named Pearl. And I remember when I got onto the server and it was that we started up the season and it was like 20 minutes later, Pearl had this incredible build. I'm all, what have I gotten myself into? So I was just like, remember being like, this was the first time I had heard of you, right? The PearlescentMoon. First time I'd heard of you was when we were working together on Legacy. And when I had seen what you had built, I'm like, I am really out of my league here. This is crazy what you had built. It was so gorgeous. And I remember being like, yeah, we have ourselves a true artist, but there was more to it. I tried to build something and it was awful. And I actually did this, like, I was building the library and I did a whole time lapse with like good music. And I came out of it by saying, this thing sucks, because I had to admit what it was. Right. So I decided this is a good opportunity to get some tutoring from Pearl, and you were really, really into it.
Oh yeah.
Yeah.
I remember that actually. Yeah.
Yeah.
I remember it. I remember watching.
Briefly.
It was so good.
Oh my gosh.
And here's the deal. This was our first time specifically working together. And if you haven't noticed by now, everybody listening and watching, Pearl is one of the sweetest ladies on the planet. And I put you in an awkward spot. I said, here's what we're going to do. I need you to ridicule me. You're like, I don't want to do that. I'm like, Pearl, it'll be fine. Yeah. You see, I said, here's what we're going to do. I'm going to put you up on a pedestal, a physical pedestal higher than me. And I'm going to do F5. And the audience is not going to know you're there. And when I tilt the camera, that's going to, when you see my head look down, that's me tilting the camera so it's looking up and seeing you. And I want you throwing garbage at me. You're like, don't build like this. And you were so good, and you were reluctant, but you did it, and it was so funny. It was such a good bit. And I really genuinely learned something from you, because I did a balcony and she goes, so what's holding this up? I'm all, what does that mean? She's like, what's holding this up? I'm all, well, it's Minecraft. It floats. and you're like, no, and I'm like, you're talking like in textual, or the architectural integrity. Yeah. And you're like, yes. And I'm like, oh man, this is next level. And I grew in that one moment. It was like actually a really big thing, but it was so much fun.
I gotta make this look realistic. What?
But she explained it well.
Learn how to build.
Yeah. No, it was good.
Oh my gosh.
Do you remember this? And this is when I learned that you were a good teacher. When I learned that you were going to be a lot of fun to work with, was we used to do this thing on Legacy to where the audience could vote for certain changes on the server. And I think I recommended, I don't know if it was my idea or not, but we did something called Blood Nights, and we did it for a week to where every time it turned nighttime, everybody's eyes turned red and you were just supposed to go out and kill whoever was in front of you. Well, you and I were just hanging out doing something and your eyes just became red. And I freaked out because I knew I was going to lose. And I ran back to my, that's what she did. That's what she did. I ran back to my room. I slammed the door and I look and I hit a metal door and she's looking through the slats with those red eyes. She's all, excuse me. And it was actually, I got the heebie-jeebies in that moment.
Was it 5 a.m. Was it 5 a.m.?
It may have been.
Pearl's time when that hit? Because that would make sense.
I don't actually.
That definitely sounds like a 5 a.m. Pearl character right there that came out. That was the early stage of 5 a.m. Pearl.
I don't know what time that even was. I don't know even if I was having a weird sleep schedule for Legacy. I don't remember.
Yeah,
that's amazing.
But, when everything turns red.
You got to go. It's the Blood Nights. You got to give into it. Hey, walk us through the last 12 hours of your life. I want the audience to be familiar with how much you have to adapt constantly.
The last 12 hours of my life. I woke up, let's see, I streamed yesterday and I ended at 3 a.m. And then I ended up going to sleep eventually, probably around 5 or 6 a.m. Got myself up at about 1 p.m. Did everything, all the chores around the house I need to do and get done. And then it was kind of just into immediate Hermitcraft and getting some builds done and getting things prepared for the episode. And up until that point, it was just me doing that. I put up a lovely JoJo stream in the background. She's playing Until Dawn at the moment, by the way. Super cool. And just casually building up until I had to get some food going. And 3 a.m. hit, had to do a recording. And then 4 a.m. And now we're here on the podcast. Jeez. So it was a much more chill day today, to be honest, because I'm just mocking out a build at the moment. That's my typical Monday and Tuesday. But Wednesday, Thursday, Friday is like, right, record, edit, upload, those 3 days.
So you find yourself having a pretty solid schedule for yourself during the week, or is it pretty fluid because of the time zones and having to adjust to collabs and things like that?
It's pretty fluid. I do prefer to get up at least, anywhere between 10 a.m. to midday. That's kind of like where I like to aim. But sometimes, for example, if we've got, the podcast at around 4 a.m., if I end up going to sleep around 5 or 6 later that day, it takes me a while to zone down, then I'll just wake up a bit later and it's fine. But I like to have a rough, right, you need to go to bed now or you're going to be up all day. Because there has been times before where I have literally been up 24 hours or I've even just been up, the sun is fully in the sky, it's midday, and I'm still not asleep yet. Ooh. So it really depends. I've done a few of those midday ones actually leading up to San Diego. It was pretty common. It was getting out of hand. I'm like, right, I got to fix this. This is bad.
Yeah, I was going to say, like, when you had to, like, fly over here, there's obviously going to be a big time zone adjustment. It feels like maybe you were, like, preparing yourself for having to adjust by just overdoing it so that you would sleep no matter what once you got here.
Well, I'll tell you what, though. It went to San Diego, right? The whole, like, what is the I can't think of the terminology right now. What's the word when you need sleep when you fly somewhere?
Sleep deprivation.
This,
what is that?
Oh my gosh, I'm on board.
Circadian, no.
Yeah.
Is it
no, just generally when
jet lagged.
when you fly so
jet lag.
Oh my gosh.
My brain is apparently jet lagged.
We all were. That was crazy.
But I didn't have any jet lag going into San Diego. But coming back to Australia, I came back and I had a dentist appointment straight away, so I couldn't sleep when I got back home.
My gosh.
But I got back home, and then it all just hit me. And then I eventually actually finally just crashed. I crashed for an entire day. But then I was also getting up at 8 or 9 a.m. for several days in a row, regardless of whether if I had 3 or 4 hours sleep before. I was getting up super early, and I was like, this is fantastic. I am full of energy. It was super weird. But when I crashed, I crashed. So I don't know. It was funky.
Yeah, that's crazy. I mean, I was having trouble trying to like understand our schedules when we were trying to, see if you were available to come on the podcast, because I knew you were going to be going to PAX Australia this weekend, and I'd seen you mention it on Twitter or something that, hey, I'm going to PAX Friday, Saturday, Sunday this weekend. And I was like, okay, well, let's see if we can have Pearl on the show on Thursday. And so I reached out, hey, Pearl, you want to come on and we'll record Thursday morning. And you're like, well, I'm going to PAX that day. And I was like, no, you're not. You're going on Friday. And then my brain did the math. I'm like, wait a minute. 5 a.m. Pearl would be 5 a.m. the next day. Right. Yeah. Time zones are crazy. And I was like, okay, we could figure out a different day.
Yeah.
Pearl's in the future, as we like to make the joke all the time. She's in the future. What's tomorrow like, Pearl?
Yeah. Tell me what the lottery numbers are. Yeah. You got a little crush. So, but you've gotten really good at this, and we, you talked about 5 a.m. Pearl. We've mentioned it a couple times, but if I'm not mistaken, you have a figurine out there that's actually called 5 a.m. Pearl, don't you?
I do actually. I've got some little plushies and figures that I've actually made out of that character, but it did originate from Double Life. Like without that, it wouldn't exist, I don't think. It's just sleepy deprived Pearl,
Wait, specifically Double Life? The Life series in general?
Double Life.
The one series that I had to miss due to travel.
Yeah.
The one. That was the one I missed.
You're lucky he missed that, Pearl, or else you would not have won that season. He would have definitely taken you out.
I think he's lucky. I think he's lucky he missed it, because I would have been knocking on his door and going, hey, Skizz.
Yeah. So
give him some flashbacks.
So we record. You were part of the Life series, Double Life, and actually, which was that your first season or second season of being in the Life series?
Second, because I was in Last Life. I only missed the first season.
Okay. So you came in a second season, and that was the season that we were in pairs, and I believe you were paired with Scott Major that season.
That's right.
Not a bad person to pair with.
No.
But I was paired with Scott in Last Life too. So at that point we were like, oh, we don't want to be paired together. But I feel like at that point, like he had already decided that he was gonna pair with Clea regardless. Because Martin and we went to the Nether just as a fun journey thing. We were gonna go find our soulmates and we're gonna go, come back after getting a bunch of resources and find out who they were. Turns out everybody else had found their soulmates, and only the last two left, Clea and Scott, were our soulmates. And they're like, yep, we're together. Screw you guys. But then Martin was like, yeah, you know what? Screw you too. And he left. So I was just there alone. Me and my dog, Tilly.
Yeah, I was going to say, that's when you started getting the dogs together. And because we record it and we start at 5 a.m. your time, that means you get a little silly during the recording, and then you just kind of embrace that as a character that just was kind of like going a little insane over the course of the series. And that developed into a whole character that you now have plushes, and 5 a.m. Pearl is a common term. That must have been fun playing a character. Is playing character something that you do naturally? Like, were you a theater kid, or was that a new experience for you to kind of role play like that?
Honestly, I've actually always been the shy, quiet person. I think I did one class of theater when I was in high school, and it definitely helped me get out of my shell a bit more, but I'm still very just in my own little bubble. So roleplay has never really been my thing and my shtick, and it still kind of really isn't. In a way, my characters are an extension of me that just heavily dramatized when it's sleep-deprived version of me. I'm just like, right, this is an entertainment type thing. This is improv. It's supposed to be funny and, out there. So I was like, right, let's just harness the silly energy and just go a little bit crazy. But I will have to say, I have to mention one of the challenges of when you're alone in a series like that. Everyone is together, and when you get into a series like that, you're like, okay, you've got a partial plan, or you can kind of slightly lean on the other person that you're teaming up with in that series. But when you're alone, you're like, what am I going to do today? And at that point for Double Life, it was like, okay, I'm going to antagonize Scott because I'm linked to him and he can get all panicky about his health going down. I just wanted to tease him a little bit. And that's how 5 a.m. Pearl was born, because I was just a little bit antagonistic towards him.
Oh, that's great.
And that developed a character. So they're a natural born character. They're not forced.
Yeah, very good.
Yeah, absolutely.
And you are good at it too. You are a very, I don't know. You said shy, but I don't know if I don't see it, but I got to spend some good time with you in San Diego, and you are pretty reserved. You are very, you're relatively quiet, but you also are just very relaxed. That was kind of what I picked up on when we were all like hanging out at the house or whatever. Just quiet, relaxed, lovely to be around and chill. And that's why when there are those moments like antagonizing Scott, or when I went red in one of the series and I was acting like I was going crazy and I pretended to threaten Pearl, and she's like, no, I see you over there with your nipples out. Like, just like that one line was so funny to me because I changed my skin to be, shirtless or whatever. I see you with your nipples out. And it
your wrestling costume is what I called it.
Yeah.
Oh, yeah, I called you nipples, didn't I?
You did.
I just straight call you nipples. Hey, nipples.
Yeah, that's right. That's right. God, it was so good. And I remember how it broke my character because I didn't see it coming, but it just made me laugh so hard. So those live series, those are always it's always good to see your face in those. Anytime we do a new live series, it's always good to see you there. But I want to talk about something that you really shocked me with in season 10 here in Hermitcraft. Is I've always seen Pearl as the girl who's good at Minecraft and an artist and has found a way to make these gorgeous builds and is lovely to be around. But you had this Redstone arc this year. Now, anybody who's not familiar with the game Wordle's this game that you can play online where it's a word game. Look it up. I don't want to explain what it is. It's very complicated if you had to design it with code, and Pearl found a way to design it with Redstone. And I still, to this, you talk to the best Redstoners on the server, and they are like, "This is ridiculous. This is
it's advanced Redstone.
You don't
for sure,
you don't do that.
Something like that work.
You don't dabble in yeah. This is what Pearl said. Oh, I'm dabbling, and I'm like, no, you don't get to. Actually, this is my video. I'm like, you don't get to make this and then use the word dabble. So something weird happened there. So can you take us through that? Because I think you went from not having a ton of exposure to deep Redstone to making Deduction, which is the game you called it. How do you get there?
Mm-hmm.
How do you get there that fast?
Honestly, for one, the people on the server, you got lovely Impulse sitting right there in front of you. Great inspiration. And Tango was a really big inspiration because he was like, you know what? I asked him one day, like, hey, man, can you teach me a few things about Redstone? And, he taught me the things of the skeleton farm when he made me the bone farming. He said, hey, this is how this works. This is how you can use this piece of technology to do exactly this. And that definitely really helped me get into it. I've seen a couple little videos also on Redstone, but one of the main things I'm going to have to say is when I designed Deduction, it was on a live stream. That live stream was out there from start to finish, from literally day zero of, I'm like, right, I've got to make a mini game for my flower shop. And here I am being inspired by just a little dropper game. And there was another, Cub's little firework game in his firework shop. I was like, right, I'm going to make a simple game like those two for my flower shop. So I was thinking the basic of the basics. I'm like, right, I just want something simple. I don't want one that's too complicated in Redstone specifically. I'm like, nah, I don't want to go that direction. And for some reason in my head, it was just like, oh, what if we did a bit of Wordle in Minecraft? That's easy, right? That's not a problem to put in Minecraft.
Easy. Come on.
Just some item frames. And we just got into it, and I was talking to my chat with the process, and we're just going through things, and we're like, oh, this isn't really possible anymore, is it? This is getting too complicated. This is so silly. Why am I even doing this? And then something snapped in my brain. Impulse's item sorters. And I was like, what if you just sort the letters through the item sorters in the system, and whatever doesn't get sorted comes back and says it's incorrect? And then it just led on from there. And chat definitely helped when it came to I'm like, right, I need the game to do this. So I need a specific Redstone component. The chat at the time was like, hey, you could kind of use this block or item. And they explained how that block works. So then I was able to apply that in other areas of the machine myself as well.
I find that
T-flip-flops. I mean, that as well.
On stream. You don't do Redstone on stream. You definitely don't do Redstone on stream when you're learning. And you definitely don't do deep, complicated, intricate Redstone while you're learning on stream.
Yeah.
And she did it all and crushed it.
I equate that to when I was trying to learn modded Minecraft, and I played a modded Skyblock series. And when I would ask chat for help, I would get 10 different answers. And because there was 10 ways to do the same thing, and you would get people arguing in chat about which way was better, and I couldn't do it. And so the whole time I'm thinking, how did Pearl learn Redstone from her chat without that being a nightmare, a problem of these Redstoners that think they know how to do it better, just going at each other in chat. Meanwhile, you're trying to just learn the concept. Was there any of that going on, or were they pretty cool?
There definitely was some of that going on, but overall, because I was asking about how a specific block or redstone component works, they were just like, right, let's explain how that component works. And I was then able to take that, put it in my brain, and kind of be like, oh, I see what they're trying to explain. This works like this. So that means I can put these two together to do this part of the game. And that made the whole process just super enjoyable. Like there were smiles the whole way, not a lot of frustration like there usually is when it comes to doing redstone on stream. Everyone just seemed to be having a great time because it was just right. Explain the component, not the overall thing that I have to do, and we worked together. So
that's crazy. I would. I do not have the courage, we'll say, to do something like that. I feel like
I built the mangrove farm on stream, and it's a mess, and it's not nearly as complicated as deduction, not even close. And I did it on stream knowing it's a bad idea. But I just did it to do it, and I know what you're saying. There's Redstoners who are watching who think they can do it better, and in my case, most of them can. But there's another dynamic here. Redstoner A will come in and say, "I can do this better than you." Redstoner B will come in and say, "I can do it better than A," and that's happening in chat. And then it's all the letters of the alphabet. By the way, it just keeps on going. Everybody,
and you have to drop that internal thought that all those Redstoners, these experts in chat, are just face palming like crazy. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
Like how do you not get this? And that kind of stuff. Like you have to like let that go and realize it's you're on your own journey, right?
You see, the thing is, you just get ahead of them and say, hey, I really suck at this, so this probably isn't going to be that great. So don't expect anything. And then they kind of relax a little bit, you know?
Yeah.
I mean, don't put yourself down. You want to be like, right, I'm learning. That's really, I guess, in a better sense of the word, put it out there that, hey, I'm learning. It's not going to be amazing. It's not going to be compact. You know, it's not going to be the most efficient system from the get-go. This is just about how Redstone works. And then it kind of relaxes them a little bit, you know?
You've made an art of that.
Per se,
yeah, you've made an art of that because I turned into a stream where you were going to try Etho's Frogger game, Ravager Rush. And it was like your first time through, and you're like, all right, guys, I'm just going to play this a few times. Temper your expectations. We're not going for the high score. Next thing you know, I blink. I tune back into your stream 3 hours later, and not only did you have the high score, you crushed the high score to a number that nobody thought was possible.
Yeah.
And I'm like, didn't I just hear you a couple hours ago say, guys, this is going to be chill. We're just going to play this for fun. I'm not going to try to go nuts with it.
You don't understand that. You do the same thing, dude. You undersell. You undersell so that you can over deliver.
The difference is Pearl over delivers in space.
Yeah, that's true.
We can go back and we can talk about Cub's Labyrinth.
Was
the same way, right? Like,
boy.
Pearl found a way to get. I don't know. Do you still have the lowest time in Cub's Labyrinth?
I do. 34 minutes.
Jeez.
No deaths.
And it took me like 34 hours.
I don't understand. That makes no sense to me. In fact, while I've only been through the first two phases, and it took me like 90 minutes, and there's like what, 5 or 6 or something like that.
6, I think.
6 phases.
6 zones, I think.
Yeah. I've only done the first 2. It took like 90 minutes, and the whole time and Cub was there with me, and I said, what did Pearl get? She got it through all 6 in what? He's like, I think it was like 34 minutes. And I'm just like, what is going on? There's no way. You know what I mean? I remember being like, I feel like if I made 0 mistakes and just cruise through this thing, it would be like at least 45 minutes. I have no idea. That's very, very impressive.
You could do it in 20, honestly. If you're one of those pro Minecrafters, I could see them doing it in 20. If you learn the first maze so you don't have to keep hugging the left wall the whole time, and then you would ace the parkour, you never got hit once, I reckon you could do sub 20, honestly.
All the things to be perfect. Let's talk about Go Touch Grass. Let's do this.
Yeah.
Okay, so
that one.
So this is Impulse's game that he wrote, and I just another Redstone thing that I just think is a brilliant game. It's so much fun to play. And I don't know if you caught my last video, Pearl, but I did this whole like dream sequence where I was having a nightmare because I did so poorly at Go Touch Grass. So I come out of it, I jolted awake, and I got to go do better. Well, my high score was 14. Yours was 22, which was the highest on the server. Shocker. And I went in there, and I'm like, I'm not leaving until I get high score. And I didn't. I got 21, which I thought was good. Later, I ended up getting 22, which is fine. But I was like, wait, I got to know. And be honest, how many attempts did it take you to get 22? Be real with me.
Honestly, not that many. I think
Yeah,
I remember popping it on stream. I remember coming back, like starting off, and I was horrible at it because Impulse introduced me to it. You remember Impulse? I
Yeah.
did terribly. I got like 5 or
It's
something.
deceivingly hard, that game.
yeah.
Yeah. But then I came back the next day and was like, oh, you just aim the fishing rod this much above the grass that's coming down and easy, it comes back. And I think it was only a few goes on stream and then we ended up with the 22. I don't think it was that many because I didn't grind out that game like I did the others. You just, once you learn the patterns, you're good to go.
You get the timing
still
down.
trying to get 23.
You figure out the aim. Yeah, 22 is the high score if you are perfect and you get one piece of grass every single time. That's just when the fishing rod's going to break.
That's when it's going to break.
Yeah. So the only way to get higher than that is if you get lucky and 2 pieces of grass come out at the same time and float towards each other and combine into one item. And it's doable, but you are definitely relying on RNG, random generation there of those. Of
and
that
perfection.
And you have to also be perfect at the same time, which is something that the game Pico Park nailed.
Oh, my goodness.
What was the level? 12-3 or something?
12-4.
12-4?
I'm repressing it.
Where the entire group has to do nothing but be perfect to get through it. And I think our group with gigs took 43 minutes. And Pearl, you recently played Pico Park 2 with a team.
How many people on your team, first of all?
We started off with 4, but then Ollie had to dip part way, so we ended up with 3. And then we finished it with 3.
Okay. That's not the same, dude. I'm just saying.
Yeah,
we know.
it scales. It scales. It changes difficulty depending on how many you have. I'm just saying, 12-4, from what I could see in your VOD, you didn't have, like, for us, we had a little jump up at the very start, whereas in your VOD, I saw you just had straight.
Really?
We had to jump up and then we could go.
Oh,
and the jump up got us so many more times because we got stuck on each other's feet. So
okay, did you guys'
difference I noticed?
So anybody who's not familiar with Pico Park, this is the game that is said tests friendships to the very limit. And because everybody has to not only do their part, but everybody has to be perfect. And that's just the nature of it. It's a great game. How's the friendships doing with the people you played? You good?
Honestly, I feel like our friendships are actually better. Just saying. I think there was so many laughs out of it. I was in tears on one of the levels because, like, okay, there was a certain level where you had to bounce some balls on a head to get to the other side and into the jar. And let's just say some jokes were made and it was just in tears. It was, it was great. I loved it.
Has been a good one for the inappropriate jokes. We had that too, where especially the first one with the vacuum.
Is it a vacuum or a magnet? Because I think when we decided it was a magnet, it made us better. But when we thought it was a vacuum, we used the word suck a lot.
That was totally vacuum. Yeah. We ended up in the same situation with that.
Yeah.
What a fun game.
They know what they're doing.
Yeah. I mean, as far as like mastering the art of perfection, I feel like is something that you strive for. Is that something you take outside of content creation?
Well, for one, I don't believe perfection is attainable, which I know you guys have put on your podcast before.
We have.
So I just have I'm constantly learning type of mentality. Like, right, I can get better. Like, what is slightly off here and what can I do better? And I definitely do bring that into other aspects. Things like editing, I'm still constantly trying to improve. I'm still trying to improve just content creation in general. When it came to art, as a kid, I was constantly like, oh, I could learn this little skill set or this little thing I can do. Crafting, I'm like, oh, I could sculpt this slightly better. Maybe if I use this different technique, and I might look up tutorials online. So it definitely applies elsewhere for sure. I'm just like, how can I just be more efficient at living?
Yeah, we're very similar in that, that we love to learn and we love to try to be as efficient as possible. And I did learn over the past couple of weeks that Pearl is actually a pretty big audiophile. I've always considered myself pretty sensitive to audio, but Pearl has me beat hands down on that because we were working on your audio setup and you were hearing everything. And as far as like when you edit your videos and you edit your own audio, you're very picky about, your cuts and taking out breaths and ums and all that stuff. And so like that right there just like told me the story of Pearl. You know what I mean? Like this is what she's all about. Like trying to get something perfect, trying to be efficient at it, and just learning as much as you possibly can. And that was fun. I mean, we had fun. It's sometimes frustrating working with technology when you're new to it. But yeah, we we redid your audio setup. Are you happy now? Is it still working for you?
I love it.
Yay.
Oh my gosh, it was the best thing I've bought, honestly. I'm so glad you suggested the Rodecaster because, like, the tube, when it was working, was good. Things sounded great. But with the Rodecaster, I don't have to do any effects on top of that. It's just all in the Rodecaster itself. This is sounding like a promotion of Rode. Hey, Rode, you're great.
We have a Rode device
but
on
no.
camera right here, so it's fine.
Look at this. Yeah, because this is right here. But no, it's been really good. And plus the little like soundboard effects too. You know, I've been messing with those a little bit and that's really cool. But when it comes to making videos, I feel like sound is one of your most important things. And for me, if my sound is like slightly off or the quality is a little bit less than I would otherwise like it, I'm just constantly trying to figure out a way to make it better and also not have to touch it every single time in Premiere. I'm still changing levels in Premiere. I listen to the whole thing multiple times over to make sure there's no peaks, make sure if people are listening on headphones or monitors that it's still at a good volume, that kind of thing. I'm definitely very picky with it, but it's a great device.
And I got to
love
say,
it.
as far as like so the Rodecaster Pro 2 is what she's using now, and it is the most complicated device I've ever owned. Like
it's not really meant for this.
I
type of
actually
world, right?
spent another 4 hours yesterday learning new things about it because our friend Martin in the Littlewood hit me up and he was interested in wanting to transition to that device. He knew I had it and I've helped other people. And there were specific things that Martin wanted to do. His use case scenarios were something I hadn't come across yet. And so I said, give me some time to tinker with it and I'll see if it can do what you're asking. And I spent 4 hours yesterday mucking with my audio just to see if I could make it do what Martin wanted it to do. And at the end of the day, I thought, actually, that was a pretty brilliant idea because Martin's a smart guy. I was like, that's a brilliant idea. Maybe I'll keep mine set up that way. And so we'll see if I do or not. But yeah, I mean, I spent time tinkering with it. And I feel like you kind of have fun tinkering with things as well, whether it's, technology or different ways to build in Minecraft. I mean, your styles of building have changed from season to season. I want to talk about that a little bit. Like season 8 was your first season, and you wandered into Bodum as it was being formed, and quickly settled in. And I remember you were new to Hermitcraft, you were new to the group, you were still getting to know everybody, and we all started building our little starter bases. And you kind of got yours done, and you walked out and you looked around and you realized everybody's front door is facing the center of this little circle that we created with the Bodum hole in the middle. There wasn't a hole yet. And I remember it was just me and you in the area, and you're like, I don't know what to do. And I was like, well, why don't you just rotate it? Kind of joking because that was a thing that I had done in season 7 where I took my entire base and I raised it up by a block, which means I had to tear the whole thing down and rebuild it. And I remember the audience got a kick out of that. And so I was like, just tear it down and turn it. You rotate it 90 degrees. And you were like, I don't know. That seems like a lot of work. And I was like, Pearl, I'll help you. And this was like our first really getting to know each other. That was a real early season, right? And so I stuck around long enough to tear it down. And then I left. And Pearl actually had
I'll help you.
Pearl actually had to rebuild
down.
it after turning it, but I figured she knew the build. I didn't, but I'm good at tearing stuff down. I'm like, you should turn it. I'll help you tear it down. See ya. But that was a good way to kind of introduce your audience to how much you were willing to put into something, right? Like that just shows that you're willing to go the extra mile for the greater good of the content. And I just thought that was great. People still talk about that today, how you rotated your base. In fact, they forgot that I raised my base by a block. They only talk about your rotation now.
You took over the cool.
How did they forget yours? Because yours was a gigantic pyramid. Mine was a starter base that was probably a couple at 2 to 3 hours to just change. Yours was a whole pyramid. Like, I don't understand.
Bodum was a memorable time. Tell me about like how that felt during that season to come into Bodum, which was pretty high profile neighborhood, if you will, on the server. And this was your first getting to know the hermits. I can only imagine you had some anxiety and nervousness around those first couple episodes as you got to know us. But tell me about how it felt for you?
I mean, you've pinpointed it on the head, right? There was definitely a bit of anxiety, and I still get that every now and again. In fact, I've told you guys getting into this podcast, I had a bit of anxiety still, and I've known you guys for years at this point. But coming into Bodum was just straight from 0 to 100 immediately. Like, it's super loud group of content creators that are so good at what they do. And I was like, right, I've got to be on their level pretty much quick snap because I want them to have good content. It's constantly in my head. I want other people to have good content if they're interacting with me. So that was constantly in my head, and sometimes I tend to overthink, like, okay, what I should say or what I should do in order to make their content better, and then it ends up actually doing quite the opposite. I overthink, I freeze up, and then I don't know what to say, and I just kind of let out a laugh, like this awkward laugh. And I definitely learned a lot being around that group of people because that is like where I want to strive for in terms of making content. So I use it as a really good learning experience. I'm like, right, get out of the bubble, pop it, just jump in. But it was very hectic. There was a lot. I always had too much content.
Yeah.
So
no, you raise a good point. You know who's a good person to, in my opinion, a good person to collab to sort of learn that skill set that you're talking about in regards to just dive in, just do your thing is Grian's a good one. And the reason I say that is because I think a lot of people, when they're collabing with others, especially when they're collabing the first couple of times with somebody, there's sort of this inclination to be very agreeable about what it is that they want to do. Like, what do you think we should do? And whatever the person suggests, we'll do that. And that's all well and good. It's not innately bad to be agreeable, but people like Grian has no interest in being agreeable. He will be if it makes sense in his mind, but if not, we're going to do it another way. And that's very, very refreshing. And what it does is it gives people sort of the green light, just kind of stand your ground. You know what I mean? So like, I started a raid on accident and Jem was going to help me fix it. And Grian's like, I can help you fix this. Look in the other direction. Just ignore it. You know, which was really funny. I'm like, no, we got to take care of this. So Jem and I start coming up with this plan, and Grian's like, that sounds frighteningly close to doing something, which was really, really funny. So now we have this dichotomy between me and Jem trying to fix it and Grian not wanting to be a part of it, to the point to where he just started making it harder for us to fix the problem. And I realized that this is how I need to be. Just dig your heels in and just be unapologetically you.
Accept
and
your inner gremlin.
Yeah. Just go be. It makes better content that way.
For sure.
Yeah, let your personality shine. You know, don't stifle it.
Which brings us to talk to me. I got to be honest with you guys. I'm not very familiar with the soup group. If you guys could walk me through the birth of the soup group and what that was all about.
Organic is, we had organic soup because that was probably the most organic forming of a group that I've been part of on Hermitcraft in the history of Hermitcraft. Literally, day one, season 9, had zero idea of what I wanted to do, who I wanted to hang out with, or team with, or be around, any of that. And it was Pearl. It was Pearl. I mean, walk us through those early moments of season 9 and give a history of the soup group formation, if you would.
The soup group. Well, at the point in time, legitimately it's just chaos, all the voices ever running around, and we needed food. And there was a dark oak forest nearby. So it was kind of just whoever happened to be in the dark oak forest. And we just smushed down the mushrooms and made some soup. And then you had Jem, who was like, do you want to raid a mansion? And I'm like, no. Why would you want to raid a mansion?
Inner gremlin.
Are you insane?
Yeah.
So we all went into this mansion with soup as food because we're like, why not? And that's kind of just what happened. And I still remember also teasing you about saplings for some reason.
Yeah.
I can't remember what
I don't remember
exactly,
why either.
But I was for some reason teasing you about dark oak saplings. So that was another thing. So it kind of just ended up with the three of us. We're like, right, we've got our soup, we got our food, we're ready to go. Let's just charge into a mansion and have some fun.
Yeah, you and I had history. We had rapport from season 8 because we worked so closely with Bodum. And Jem, I had just done a few collabs with in season 8, where she helped me out with the candy river in the factory that I was doing. She did some amazing candy trees and stuff in there, and so I knew she was awesome. But when the three of us got together early season 9, there was just this chemistry, that you feel sometimes when you get into collab scenarios where you're just like, wow, the three of us just really gel. And we had such a good time day one, the first day of recording, that we thought, what if we just kept going with this trio and like built bases next to each other? And this is where I got the anxiety, because I knew how good Pearl was at building, and I knew how good Gem was at building, and I knew how good I wasn't, at least comparatively, right? Comparison's the thief of joy. We get that. But I was like,
gonna say, dude,
I was like, oh, how am I going to hold a candle to these? So all those feelings that you just kind of like talked about how you had in Bodom season 8, being surrounded by such amazing people, I had with the soup group. And I thought, I'm going to, like, these two are going to hate me. I'm going to build something so bad, and Gem's got to live above me, and Pearl's got to stare out her front door at my whatever I do. and they're going to just be like, why did we team up with this guy? He sucks, you know? And I was feeling all those feelings, but it was those feelings that pushed me to like become better, to work harder at getting better. Otherwise, I could have easily just like slipped into my comfort zone and not gotten any new experience and pushed myself. So I was grateful for that. I was grateful for the three of us coming together, and I think that it's just been smooth. Like all of our interactions have just been smooth, and so I've enjoyed every single one. We don't have as many season 10. I mean, you and I have some stuff going on, and some stuff to come as well that we've teased about. But it's been an absolute pleasure. I'm really glad that soup group thing came about. Like, people talk about it all the time.
100%. It was so good. And definitely I'm trying to like team up with different people per season. I try to switch it up so I can get to know people a bit more. And this season now it's Tango, because I got to know Tango from Decked Out last season. He's been really cool to get to know as well. It's been fantastic. But I do miss interacting with you, Impulse. Like, we had a lot of interactions last season, and unfortunately I don't get to see you as often. We do get to bop though.
Yes.
We got the bop song. That's you know, I'm always there. You turn on the bop song, there I am.
Pearl and I, we had I think your time zone changed, but we had an overlap of about an hour in our streaming schedules, because we both try to stick to a pretty stringent streaming schedule, and we would have an hour of overlap. And every time her stream would see that she's talking about going to Bop and Go, our XP machine, to get some XP, they would let me know, because every time she would come over, I would join her, or vice versa, and we would just kind of dance together. Like, we figured out the animation thing where when you switch a torch from your right hand to your left hand, it looks like you're clapping. And so I think the last time you came over, we had a improvised dance that was somehow in sync. Like, her and I just on the spot improvised this dance, and it was like perfect.
That is good.
So, the pause in the middle of a song, we just like crouched and we did nothing. And then it was back.
Yeah, it literally looked like we choreographed it.
Yeah.
So those moments have been fun, and I'm definitely looking forward to having some more moments with you on season 10. We got some things brewing, as I mentioned, so that's going to be fantastic. 100%. But let's talk about your build this season. Solar Punk. That was another thing that was just random and very cool that it happened, because I didn't know going into season 10 that it was going to be the season of punks. We've got Joel with his Asian-inspired cyberpunk. We've got me and B-Dubs doing this kind of more dystopian cyberpunk. So there's two cyberpunk feels that are very different. And then we got Tango doing steampunk, and then we've got you doing solar punk. And we just have the punk neighborhood. I'm trying to get Skizz over here to do a little more diesel punk, so that he can tie it all together.
Could be hydro punk.
Hydro punk.
Hydro punk's nice. Didn't think about that one. I forgot that the hydro punk existed.
Is it just anything and just put it in front of punk?
Name an element and then punk it.
I do pillow punk.
Well, they are restricted to certain ones, but there are those diesel punk and hydro are legitimate ones. Hydro is a little bit, I think, more unknown and less detailed. I think it's a bit on the fence, that one.
Okay, so yeah, he did talk. I want to get in on it. I'm a little gun shy to try to design something like that.
You gotta start somewhere. I mean, like we were just talking about, these kind of things will push you. And so, Pearl, I don't think there's anyone better but you to explain the process that maybe Skizz can go through. Tell us what your process is when you did decide to do solar punk. Where did you find inspiration? How did you translate that inspiration from outside of Minecraft into the game? What's your process there to make that happen?
Well, honestly, I think it helps to give a bit of context that going into the season, I had no idea what kind of theme I wanted to do for my base. I was just going to go basic industrial for a little while. And then one day we were just like, there's a lot of punks on this server. What if we were a punk? And then someone's like, what if you do solar punk? It's very green. It's very you. I'm like, you know what? Yeah, that's great. I love lush green. I like bushes everywhere. And solar punk was pretty much just that. I'm like, yeah, that's fantastic. I'm going to dive into this. Then, of course, I did a bit of research into it, but my initial foray into solar punk was like, oh, it's very green, it's very plant-like, it feeds from the earth, that kind of thing. But it was very basic look on what solar punk is. And when I uploaded my first episode saying like, hey, I'm gonna do solar punk, I had like a whole bunch of comments that were really nice about it. They weren't mean or anything, but they really kindly were like, hey, solar punk is about this. They gave me so many details to go off. And then I was able to properly then Google it a bit more and find a specific theme direction. The thing is with Solarpunk though, is there are so many things out there that label it as this really clean, pristine, white city. And I get that because it reflects the sun and you can kind of absorb it in different ways and use it in that way too. But I also found a form of Solarpunk that was very old traditional. The fact that they take over old buildings and reuse old buildings instead of making new ones. And I was like, I much prefer that part of solar punk. And that's like, right, that's the direction I'm going to go in. The reuse, reduce, recycle, use the sun, harness the sun, also use the water flows to create the power. And I was like, right, I'm going to try and incorporate all that technology into my base. Wind is also part of it too. So there's a whole bunch of things.
That's really cool. Because like, yeah, we're doing these things, we're creating this content, but also we're learning things. And if we're able to then pass on that learning, that experience, because like I didn't know solar punk was a thing until you said you were doing it. And then once that came about, I'm like, oh, okay. Started going down the same kind of rabbit hole of like, what's that mean? And I learned from that. And I'm thinking, I'm guessing your viewers did as well, you know, like learn about what solar punk style is. And because, you know, cyberpunk, we've seen a lot of movies. It's more mainstream, right? And there's video games and stuff. So yeah, it was cool to see a different take on it. And I was just curious, like, what your process was to get your head wrapped around the concept of how am I going to create this style of solar punk in a game like Minecraft.
I don't think I can still do it justice. Like, I'm still trying to learn it as well. And I'm like, guys, I mean, you could probably know a whole lot more about it than I do. It's not going to be like perfect solar punk because people are also telling me like, Pearl, you're going to start off everybody knowing about solar punk. They're all going to learn that from you. You're starting the build theme in Minecraft. I'm like, oh gosh, I hope not, because I'm still learning it myself and it's probably going to be wildly inaccurate. And I think also partially being okay with it being slightly inaccurate while you're learning is an okay thing to do as well.
Yep. It gives you freedom.
So.
It doesn't handcuff you. Yeah. And I like builds that make you think. That's what I'm trying to do with Maslow's pyramid. And it's interesting. I'm getting a lot of the comments in regards to what I've done with the pyramid and explained what all the hierarchy is. People talking about how they're literally learning about it in their psychology class right now. And my videos are actually helping them retain it because it's breaking up those levels. And that's fun. That's a lot of fun. And even then I'm like, I hope I don't do this wrong. Like before I started, I knew what Maslow's pyramid was, but I did a deep dive on it and listened to a bunch of different podcasts just to get some different sort of takes on it. And it's actually evolved to the point to where there's like several more layers than what Abraham Maslow originally intended. I'm like, I'm not doing that. I'm going to go old school, you know, Abraham Maslow. We're just doing those layers. And it's been fun. It's been fun doing that. And you just kind of have a freedom going for it. And so now you guys are talking about me maybe playing in the space of diesel punk. And I do want to, but you know what I know about it is goose egg. But so now it could be fun. Go do some research, get familiar with it, and just get started somewhere. I want to be with the cool kids.
Yeah, when you learn something, you can pass that on, and you become a teacher. You know?
That's the whole point
happens pretty quick, right, Pearl? I mean, you didn't really know much about solar punk before you started, and now you know a lot. You know, maybe not everything, but a lot. So that's super cool.
It's sad to me that you and I don't collaborate more. I don't think that we're on the server very much. Right? Yeah, you and Imp months ago, you two were doing something, and I came in and I sniped you, and it was just glorious. And I remember when I killed her, she had that one frame of her voice going. Huh. Like, you know what I mean? that it was done. But it was so much fun. But anytime I do get to play with you, it's always a pleasure. I want to ask you this. So you're obviously a very established YouTuber, very established Minecraft player. None of this happens. What happens to young Pearl? There's no Minecraft. There's no YouTube. Where are you today if you're not the Pearlescent Moon that we all know and love?
If I wasn't playing Minecraft or making videos,
Both, yeah.
probably doing something with art because I actually went to university and I have a bachelor in communication design. So that's all the advertising industry. That's actually where I learned how to edit to begin with Premiere Pro. That's where I started my editing journey is in university. So I could have been making things like advertisements, brochures, posters, logo design. All of that kind of stuff was in my bachelor. So probably something in that industry.
Yeah, you were meant to
designer.
create. That's what it sounds like. You were meant to be a part of the artistic world, and you knew that at a young age. Were you one of those kids at a young? Okay, let me bring the whole world through a story here. We talked about this actually. We briefly talked about this when we were at TwitchCon. There was a gentleman going around asking everybody to draw a picture of him in his little doodle book. I wish I had it so I could show this. We talked about it in the last podcast. This is absolutely ludicrous, or 2 podcasts ago. I told the guy, listen, you might as well just throw this page out. You have no idea how bad I am at drawing. And so I went to draw him, and it was just, it looked like Impulse's dog drew it. It was just the worst. And I was like, but I knew it was going to be bad because I just never been able to translate what I see in my brain onto paper when I try to draw it. Well, then I made the mistake of flipping through it, and I came across yours. You got to be Joe. It's ridiculous. It was ridiculous. It was so good how good it was. And it was probably like 20 seconds. And it was just so good how good it was. But it got me thinking, you remind me of the kids that I, was in school with at a young age, to where they just had some sort of natural ability to put a pencil to paper and just make something above average happen, very above average happen. Is that who you were as a young lady? Were you as a young kid? Could you just see it and make it happen?
Well, I went through my phases of learning how to draw, but I started drawing when I was very young. Like I was in my single digits and I was drawing because my dad was an artist and he also went into animate a Australian TV show and he had a job in that and it was really cool.
Wow.
But yeah, he Lil Elvis it was called. So if there's any Australians out there listening, if you know Lil Elvis, my dad helped work on that.
Little
He was
Elvis.
one of the people that was drawing. Yeah, Lil Elvis. It was an Australian cartoon. So they were doing all the drawings and he was the person to help sketch over them and create the animation. So that was really cool. But yeah, he always drew and I was like, I think I just picked it up from him. I don't know exactly when I started, but it's always been a part of me. And I've always been wanting to do it. When I was in high school, I in fact got into portraits and I was sitting outside while everyone else was chatting and I was just in the corner with my little grey lid sketching this person. And I tell you, I did get a kick out of people coming up to me and going, "Whoa, look at that."
Yeah.
I don't know. It's a bit of dopamine when it comes to drawing. It's just really fun. So I've just always done it.
Well, you
Don't
do
do it
that
much
on,
these days.
You
though.
do it on stream though. Sometimes I see you'll take a top-down camera and you'll draw. You seem to have a propensity for drawing like sea life. You like to draw fish and stuff. I don't know if you still are gravitating towards that, but you clearly have a love for it. Is fish something that you just enjoy drawing, or is it just more natural to you to draw it?
It's actually birds, believe it or not.
Birds? Why am I thinking fish?
Yeah.
Did you ever do fish?
Well, you're thinking fish because fish has become a bit of a slightly more recent item.
Okay.
So when I was going to university, I had an hour train ride there and then an hour train ride back. And that meant I had this little A5 sketchbook and I was on the train drawing. And I had another book of bird references that was from my grandma. I was like, right, pull that out on the train, start sketching the birds from the book with fine liner. And that's kind of just where it started. I just have a whole book, A5 book, it's somewhere in this room, of just a bunch of different birds that I was drawing, which eventually translated to birds that just came out of my head. I would just constantly draw birds. Found a way to utilize that time gap of just sitting on a train and instead actually trying to learn more skill sets. And then eventually I actually went camping and drew a random fish one day. And then I came home from that camping trip and I was like, right, I'm going to draw a fish and I'm going to try and color it. And up until that point, I was a black and white artist. I loved my black and white shades. That's all I wanted to do. And then eventually both fish and color came into play at the time. And then now I just love drawing both birds and fish. That's why sometimes you see a bit of a combination of both in the one art piece. So.
That's super cool.
That is cool. I just don't understand it. I don't know. I don't get it. You don't understand what it's like to not get it. You don't understand what it's like over on this side. It sucks. I would love to have that skill set.
One of the biggest things I recommend, Skizz, if you're getting into learning how to draw art or anything like that, is break it down. Don't look at it as one big piece. Look at it as a lot of small pieces. Birds and fish are my absolute fixations for art right now because there are lots of little details that make one bigger picture. And it's a lot easier to change the little tiny details, like the feathers. Like, the way I draw feathers is so simple, but when it comes together, it makes it look really impressive. But if you really look closely, it's not that much. It's just a bunch of lines that anybody else can do. It's just how it comes together. So break it down, and it makes the whole process a lot easier to understand.
That can be applied to so many things, you know? Like when we do Minecraft, that's how I like to think about it too, is just focus on little things and then piece it all together, you know, much like the same way you were telling the story about how you learned Redstone. Like basically you just learned this piece, and then you learned how to bring them all together to make this thing, this amazing thing. So I mean that's great advice for people doing lots of different things in life, for sure.
Yeah.
People tend to overwhelm themselves because they look at the overall big picture like, well, that's a lot of stuff I've got to learn. That's the end result that I've got to strive for. But instead, you've got to strive for the steps up to the end result.
Yeah.
And that's when it makes the process a lot better. By the way, in your artist podcast, you didn't mention anything to do with the fact that there is an ugly phase with art. There is always an ugly phase. It's not just suddenly pretty. It's not just there. It has an ugly phase, and sometimes it can be a really big, long one, and you're like, I just want to chuck out this entire thing, put it in the bin. But you just got to get through that phase, and everybody has that phase no matter how good you are at it. It's going to look ugly before it looks good.
Yeah, you got to start somewhere. That makes a lot of sense. And I think also a lot of people will jump to this stigma that artists are naturally talented, like always, right? And I think that's a misnomer to a degree. I mean, obviously, some people will have a better eye in the mind's eye to be able to think of something and be able to translate it to paper naturally, sure. But it, like you just said, that you go through an ugly phase. You have to go through the learning process of what it means to apply a pen to paper or whatever the medium's going to be. And artists aren't always great right out the gate, right? Like you go through an ugly phase to learn.
Yeah.
That's not really what I meant by the ugly phase. Sure, the learning phase is the ugly phase, but even when you're just creating an art piece, like it actually goes through a period where it doesn't look great until you apply the next step of the process.
Oh,
so that one art piece has the ugly phase, and then it gets to, okay, now you're adding the next stage to it, and that's when it's all the details and the pretty things that put it all together. But you've got to have your framework that typically looks terrible. And you got to get past that phase before you make it pretty. But so much, a lot of people get stuck on that first phase because you're like, I want to throw this away. And I've done that so many times. I got a graveyard of builds that I just hate because they just never got past that phase.
Yeah, wow. And I think that is, I agree with you. That's part of the process. We actually learned that growing up as kids, you'd see a cartoon of somebody trying to draw something artistic. They crumple up, throw it back. Draw something, and then the camera pulls back, and the pile of trash behind them is massive because they've just been going through that iteration over and over again. So there's a lot of merit to what you're saying. However, there is a limit, because if you took what I drew of that guy at TwitchCon and I were to give it to Pearl and say, go ahead, Pearl, you make this into something not putrid, I don't even know if you would be able to. It was actually that
got a little more reps trying to do that than we do, for sure. You know what that reminded me of when you said like that ugly phase, and you kind of explained that to where I understood it better, was Gem season 9. I remember she built like the structures, and she was getting some feedback that it wasn't great. And it was, and her response to that is something I will never forget. She just asked her audience, trust the process, because she was in the ugly phase. She was in the just getting the framework up. She hadn't done the detailing yet, the colorization, the texturization, all those things that were going to bring her build together to end up being what it is today. She had to ask her audience, I know this is the ugly phase, trust the process. And sure enough, if you watched it kind of through, that she went back and she did all the detailing, and it ended up looking absolutely amazing. So that again can be applied to Minecraft.
Yeah, 100%, and that's exactly what I want you to think as well. And Skizz, I hear you talk yourself down so much.
Oh,
like you say, I can't build. I'm not that great at it. This sucks, dude. You built an absolutely fantastic pyramid this season and an absolutely gorgeous palm tree, and you're like, you got a sugar building. Like, come on, mate.
I mean, thank you, but
you need to realize that.
It's a pyramid. It's what you build when you first start Minecraft. Everybody builds a pyramid.
Yeah, but
it
looks good.
Thank
and
you.
It's textured well.
It's got texture.
And
Yeah,
your
it's
palm
great.
tree is amazing. You know how hard it is to make a palm tree, and you're like, you just smashed it out of the park, dude.
Thank you. That was way harder than I thought it would be, was building that palm tree. I had no idea. And I did that on stream. And I remember as I was doing it, I'm like, what is going on here? Why is this so difficult? You know, and I kept like, okay, I think I know what I want to do. And I'm like, why is it going totally diagonal? They don't do that. So I remember trying to like tear it back down and do that. So I appreciate, and yes, I am proud of that palm tree. That was actually
It's a good looking palm tree.
Yeah, thanks.
I almost didn't believe you built it.
That's why, Pearl. That's why I have no confidence. I'm just kidding. I'm kidding.
You know, he's new to building
my
trees. I wouldn't have been able to do that good of a job. So I was very impressed. All right, Pearl, we have to cover one thing before we end this podcast. Otherwise, we will never hear the end of it. There is a giant Ender Eye cup-looking thing behind you.
Yeah, let's do it.
I know, even though I got a feeling my landscapers are going to show up and interrupt this segment. We got to hear about this. What is going on with this thing?
That's bigger than I thought it was. What in the
It's really big. And it's really heavy. I'm doing this and I can put my daily like workout routine lifting this thing up. So the Ender Cup. It was my second MCC win. And you know what I've also got prepared at the same time? Hold on.
Oh, here we
We're
go.
gonna unboxing live on the podcast.
I love
What's
it.
happening here?
I can be really dramatic and chuck that out there as well. Just put that over there. There we go.
What is it?
Hold
What
on.
is-
Here.
I'm so excited.
There we go.
Hey!
MCC coin.
Nice.
Yeah.
Even
So,
Prim's excited. She got it.
I had been through 3 or 4 years of MCC without a win. I'd played about 20 or something times
Jeez.
and nothing. And all these hermits kept coming in and they would play for the first time and come out with a win and it just became a meme at that point. And
So messed up.
I won on Pride MCC and then the Ender Cup came directly after that for me. And then I was like, I'm just playing for fun. And then this thing popped up in my house.
Oh, that's
crazy.
fantastic.
I'm so glad to see that
But
you
it
broke
was-
that
it's really
streak because it went on way too long. And the reason I wanted to bring it up was because, you know, we talked about, you know, how naturally talented you are at all these things. And playing in MCC is one of them. Like, you are an absolute beast competitor in MCC. And that is the way I look at MCC is it's a showcase of many different skills. Right. It's being able to work with your team. It's being able to strategize. It's being able to have good control of your character in the game when it comes to movement, you know, ace race parkouring, and then the PvP aspect as well. So it's basically challenging how well you are at, or how good you are at being a well-rounded Minecraft player. And you consistently do really, really well in MCC, even with your terrible Australian ping. So, I mean, I think it's super cool to finally like have physical accolades to represent that. But it is just another thing that I when I think about Pearl and I think about everything she's good at, that comes to mind as well, because she's proven herself not only in how well she builds and creates art inside the game, but also just how well she's mastered every other aspect of Minecraft through MCC.
Yeah.
You say mastered, but you also say consistently. If you look at my previous placements in MCC, like you can see, like sometimes I place the bottom 10 and sometimes I place like top 20. Like I am all over the place, mate.
So am I. I never got as high as 10 like you, but
It's like both of those figures were really
I know.
good.
Yeah. Sometimes I'm the best, and sometimes I'm the second
Sometimes
best.
I get second. And I'm human. No, we love razzing
There's a
you.
lot of places to improve.
Yeah.
That's cheeky.
We love we razz you,
humble.
and I know it's probably embarrassing you a little bit, but I'm fine with it because you really are one of a kind, Pearl. You are genuinely. I mean, you are one of those people that has every reason in the world to strut, but you don't do it. You hang on to your humility and you just keep crushing people. You never tell people what you're going to do. You only show them your results, and that's such a flex.
Yeah.
You just show up. A new game on this thing. Let me go ahead and open this book and put my score in. Look at Pearl at the top. Weird. That's like I've never seen that before. It's amazing.
Funny.
Yeah.
Oh, that happened.
I'm coming for
Look,
you.
I'll tell you something. I live by some words, and it's in the old what's the what's the language? The old language with different sayings. For some reason I'm getting a mind blank right now. But ancora imparo. It is a saying to say that I'm always learning, and that's what I live by. It's one of the I can't remember the language it's called because
Latin. It sounds Latin to me.
Latin, yeah, it's an old Latin saying, ancora imparo. And I took that with me when I was in my younger adult years. And I'm like, right, that is a saying that I'm going to live by and know that there's always ways that I can get better. Perfection doesn't exist, but I'm going to keep trying.
Keep striving.
I'm going to keep learning.
Say it again.
Fail, keep going.
What does it mean? Say it.
Ancora imparo. It means I'm always learning.
I'm always learning. Okay.
Yeah.
See, that's very Danny Carey, my favorite drummer of Tool. He lives by that mantra. Always never accept where you're at. Just keep on learning. That's a good way to be, Pearl.
Yeah. Super inspiring.
Yeah.
Super inspiring. So I'm going to try to adopt that. I mean, I don't have to try to adopt that mantra. I feel like we're one and the same too, but I've never heard that before. So now I might have to put that on my microphone.
I'm going to do diesel punk. I'm saying it here and now.
He's made up his mind. There we go. We talked him into it. That was easy.
I got to do it. Well,
Beautiful.
I might cut this out of the podcast.
No, you're not.
No,
No, you're not.
You keep that in there. You're gonna be it.
Yeah.
Be another punk Skizzy.
I love
It's gonna be
it.
beautiful.
That's what we'll do.
All right. Well, we are we're getting late into this podcast, getting late into. I'm sure you need your
actually
sleep.
5 a.m. Pearl right now.
And we're actually getting the wrap from my landscapers who decided to just show up and get the lawnmower going. That's why we heard a Premi bark because
That's
somebody
fine.
knew was in my backyard. So
I cut the bark out anyways. It's fine.
okay.
Yeah.
I didn't even hear
It's
it.
like I can take care of that. Don't worry about it.
Yeah.
But yeah, we'll let you get some sleep, Pearl. Thank you so much for joining us. It's lovely to get to know you even more, and hopefully, if there's anybody watching or listening that didn't know what you were all about, hopefully they will check you out. Obviously, we'll put links to everything you do in the description. And
looking forward to hanging out with you again. There will be another time in the future. I refuse to believe that San Diego is it. We will hang out
There
again.
better be.
Yeah,
For sure.
I can't wait. It's amazing how wonderful you all are. Like, I feel so comfortable around everyone. You're all absolutely fantastic. And thank you so much for having me on the podcast. So
yeah,
No,
no,
thanks
thanks.
for your time.
Thanks for joining us at the crazy hour it is.
Yeah, appreciate you. Thank you, Pearl, so much. I am officially looking forward to the next time that we're all hanging out. I really, really am.
Are we there yet?
Yeah. Well,
Actually, can we
Wait.
schedule this now so I can already look forward to it?
it is. Oh, my mic fell. It is.
Australia.
I know. That's she wants us
Australia.
to go.
I'll dress up in a kangaroo suit for you, Skizzy. Come on. I'll be there at the airport, mate.
Perfect.
We got to go. I do want to go to Australia. It's actually something I've always wanted to do.
Yeah.
You better do it.
I just
I'll
did
house
this.
ya. You can stay in mine. It's fine.
I just did this walking series on my treadmill because it's got like the trainer and the screen, and they had cameras follow them around, and they kept going to different places in Australia, and I'm like, is that where Pearl lives? Is that where Pearl lives? Is that where Pearl lives? Like, this place is beautiful. Yeah, I definitely want to go check it out someday.
That's great.
Amazing.
Yeah, please do.
Yeah.
All right, we'll have to make that happen.
Yeah.
All right, well, thank you again, and we'll see you on the
Thank
server.
you.
You and I have some shenanigans to get up to.
Yes, me too.
We sure do. We sure do.
All right, see you later.
Thank you, Pearl.
Bye.
Bye.